So, what does racism mean to you? So if you were going to define or describe racism, what would you say that it is?
To describe racism, I'd probably describe it as a continuum. There's the really overt stuff that people probably pops into people's minds immediately that I think we can all, anybody could identify. And then at the other end is the sort of racism that's embedded in our organizations, embedded in our worldview, embedded in our institutions that is harder to spot.
It's subtle, yeah.
Yeah, it's very subtle and harder to possibly stamp out without like a very very deliberate action. So it's easy to look at maybe what's happening, for instance, with the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's really clear that there's issues there, whereas the incarceration rates for Aboriginal youth or people of color, men and boys and men in particular, there's some real systemic reasons why that happens.
Yeah.
And that's those are the things that I think are harder to spot and harder to explain to people.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the next question then is, how have you experienced racism, or how have you witnessed racism?
So I think I'd just like to tell you about a time when I witnessed the effects of racism, and that was I was helping an Aboriginal man, or I saw an Aboriginal man in the library, and I had approached him to ask if he needed assistance, and I got a response that where first of all, I think I startled him by asking him that question, but if he needed help, but he called me racist, a white racist bitch. And when I went back to my office, I mean, that it shook me, but I went back to my office and I thought about it, and I thought about that man probably every time he walked into a store, every time he went to the mall, wherever he was, if he was not with other Aboriginal people, was probably being looked at as if he might be a criminal or might be looking to steal something. And so if you live your life oppressed like that, then yeah, it was understandable maybe why his reaction was that way to me.
Okay, so the last one then, Carol, is if you were going to be a bridge to ending racism in Saskatoon, how would you complete that? I am the bridge to ending racism in Saskatoon
By both in two ways. Taking personal action, sort of educating, learning, understanding, and talking about it with other people, and not turning a blind eye. But also, because I'm with the Saskatoon Public Library, there's a lot that I need to do. I feel a responsibility that the organization needs to respond to being a bridge as well, and that is sort of, I guess that would be on a whole variety of ways, from just how we operate as an organization, how we can educate the public, how we can act and model, and how we can train our staff. So I think that there is a personal responsibility, but if you're in an organization, there's also, if I can affect that kind of change in one organization in Saskatoon, then I think that I have a responsibility to do that as well.
Yeah, that's good too, actually.